This is the Moon Tower Podcast with your host, Ian Hubbard. Alrighty, folks, if you don't know what show this is now, then you must be deaf. We are here with episode 6 of the Moon Tower Podcast. As your host, Ian Hubbard, and I've switched everything around. Nate Fitch is now to my left instead of my right. Say hello, Nate.
Everything's been turned upside down.
Oh, God.
Who am I? What are we anymore?
We live in the multi-universe. Hello, folks. We would like to welcome you once again to episode 6. Thank you once again for listening in. To start off, we would like to congratulate Canada for legalizing the Mary dopes.
Oh, yes.
If you've been keeping track, Canada has become the first G7 country to legalize marijuana. It's full on, right?
Yep.
Full on. I've been getting my updates on this issue from my Trailer Park Boys posts on Facebook, which is pretty funny considering yesterday, speaking of them, yesterday they declared, yesterday was the first anniversary of John Dunsworth passing, the actor who played the late great Officer Jim Leahy, the greatest trailer park supervisor on the planet.
Rest in peace, my good man.
Yes, sir. So yesterday, if you were a fan and you were aware of that, hopefully you had a little drinky poo. So we'd like to cheers one to John Dunsworth, Officer Jim Leahy, wherever you are in the stratosphere. Hope you're good.
To the liquor.
To the liquor, even though we're drinking beer.
Yeah, close enough.
Mm-hmm. But last couple of weeks, if you've been tuning in, been kind of going a little heavy with our insights on the meat and seafood industries. So for this week, in the spirit of the holidays coming up, the good old Halloween, I like to keep it lighthearted for you. Don't want to get too heavy too often. You know, no one wants to tune in and get bombarded with the news, right, Nate?
Yeah, we like to keep it heavy for our medals.
Yeah. So, do have a very good show coming up for you. Got some stories from the butcher shop coming up. Also like to introduce some of our local characters from around the Glass City. And just give you an update on what's going on and how we're doing, as well as an update on the HEWAC Fighting Angry Goats and their last competition against the Shipshawana Flapjacks.
Do I smell pancakes?
Maple syrup. But first, folks, in the spirit of the holidays, you know, Halloween's coming up. I don't know about you, Nate. It's probably my favorite one. It's at least the most fun one for me.
It is my favorite of the pagan holidays, if you can call it that.
Quite pagan. But, I guess I'll start off, spirit of the holidays. You know, everyone's out partying. Everyone's got, the costume ideas coming together. Get-togethers, house parties, getting together, having scary movie nights and whatnot. So we'd like to start off by talking about some of our favorite scary movies. Now, with any movie aficionado, especially ones that are especially ones that are into the horror movies, you have your classics, you got your new classics, you got your cult classics, you got your your 70s horror films, you got your this and your that. So just real quick, Nate, you got any favorites you like to watch around this time of year?
I mean, it's not exactly a classic for Halloween, but I'm a big fan of Event Horizon. I feel that's a very good cosmic horror sort of thing, not quite in the Lovecraftian sense, but
Sam Neill.
Wasn't
he in that?
I think so.
Because that was Paul W. Anderson, the guy
Yep,
the guy that did Mortal Kombat and Alien
Yeah.
versus Predator.
And all those Resident Evil movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. I've heard it's actually like pretty solid.
It's good. I mean, they cut a lot out of the original and they lost a lot of the footage, so you're never going to see like a lot of the stuff that they were planning to do with the movie, but you can kind of see the ideas of what they were going with, and I feel they did a good job with what they had to work with.
My I around this time of year, I tend to speaking of sticking with the classics, I've heard the reboot of Halloween that's coming out this Friday, so the 19th.
Yeah.
I've heard that's actually pretty good.
Okay.
As far as the Halloween series, AMC, I was talking with our friend Chris Parker this last week. I was over at their place having dinner and doing laundry, and we were watching the original Dawn of the Dead from George A. Romero, excuse me.
Yeah.
Once again, cheers.
Cheers.
Got to pour one out. Yeah, we were watching that, and you know what? It holds up. It holds up. I guess the social satire or whatever he wanted to put in that, it really does still click. You know, the consumer culture and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I feel like movies with that kind of like, analyze issues like that tend to stand the test of time. Especially seeing that's like from the late 80s now and
Oh, that was late 70s.
Oh damn.
That was the original was 77, and then Day of the Dead was early 80s, and then
Yeah, I was thinking Day of the Dead, yeah.
Yeah, I think that one has where the army is, because there's Night of the Living Dead, which I'm gonna go see Friday.
Mm-hmm.
At the Valentine, they're showing that for their Halloween holiday classic. Because I'm taking a date. I got a date.
Woo.
I got a date.
Woo!
She's never seen the original Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, that's gonna be special.
And I was asking her, I'm like, well, I've been kind of interested in seeing the Halloween reboot, and I asked her, I'm like, have you seen like the original Halloween or the original Night of the Living Dead? And she's like, I've seen the original Halloween. I haven't seen the original Night of the Living Dead. And I'm like, all right, done. Booyah.
Sold.
Which, real quick, if any of you are interested for a decent movie night, date-wise, the Valentine Theater downtown, I think it's the address is 410 Adams Street, downtown Toledo. They have, throughout the year, they'll have what's called their Silver Screen Classics, which, if you don't know, they'll show like some classics like during the spring, summer, winter, or fall and winter, and they'll show like the classic movies. Like, once again, like Night of the Living Dead they're showing for Halloween. For Christmas they always show fucking It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh yeah.
And then during the spring and summer they'll have just random, like a couple years ago they had like some foreign films like Rashomon from Akira Kurosawa, The Seventh Seal from Ingmar Bergman. They'll throw in like some decent cuts on that. I mean, it's if you're a movie dork, I mean, it's pretty standard. But for anyone who's just kind of getting into it, I mean, it's pretty decent stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then Franklin Park will do that as well. Like they'll have they had The Shining. I think last year they did that for their, and then like they had Casablanca and stuff like that. But the Valentine, if you're ever down, it's like $5 a ticket. I think a couple years ago I went and saw Frankenstein, the original Frankenstein. It was pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And then the original Cape Fear with Robert Mitchum, Gregory Peck. Also classic. It's $5 a ticket, and they have popcorn and candy, but they also have adult beverages.
Ooh.
And pretty good ones too. Like you can get a decent glass of Johnny Walker for $6.
Oh, that's reasonable.
That is very reasonable. And on top of it, you can sit anywhere in the theater, which means if you've been to the Valentine, it's mainly suited for stage plays and operas and whatnot. I've seen a couple operas there. I saw Carmen, and actually, I think I saw two versions of Carmen, which is I'm not a huge in opera. It's a pretty good show. It's suited for that, so they have like the upper deck seats, and then they have like what's the box seats, like the old wraparound kind of seats, like off to the side where the two old dudes in the Muppets used to fucking sit.
Yeah, I don't know what you call that. It's not letterbox, but
It's just something like that.
yeah.
For those of you who know, like that's basically what it is. You can sit anywhere essentially. Like they don't have like much of the area roped off. It's actually pretty sweet. So if you ever get a chance, I can't tell you specifically what the dates are for the movie showings, but they're having that. But for the 19th, they're having in a couple of days they're having Night of the Living Dead, and I think if you're down for It's a Wonderful Life, they have that. I think the week before Christmas. So if you're interested, like check your local listings and whatnot, and they'll have that. Back to scary movies, though. There is one that I watched as a kid. My mom showed us this when we were kids growing up, because her and my dad were obviously raised on like the classics, like from the 50s and the 60s and whatnot. And one that I'll pretty much always hold dear, and one has like one of the great jump scares in my opinion, like especially from like the old timey classic, like black and white horror movies, is one it's House on Haunted Hill. Now, for those of you who may think that I'm trying to explain how was it Haunted House on the Hill, the new series?
Yeah.
I think was it FX is coming out with, that's kind of like based on an American Horror Story or something like that. I don't know too much about it, so if any want to cry wolf about it, I mean, by all means, go ahead. But the one I'm talking about is House on Haunted Hill, 1959, black and white, with Vincent Price. I mean, the king, essentially. Like, if you don't know who Vincent Price is and you love horror movies, it's pretty much saying, like, I love rock and roll and I don't know who Elvis Presley is. Like, you're kind of a poser, like, essentially. Like, Vincent Price is the man. He plays an eccentric millionaire who, him and his wife, they bring an assorted cast of characters to the house in order to see if they can survive the night, and whoever comes out on top or alive, they get $10,000. And then there's this like night of terrors, and each character goes through their own kind of brand of horror and psychological terror and whatnot, and trauma and all this shit. But there's one great piece where one of the main, who ends up being the main like side female character, she goes down into the basement thinking that she's hearing some sounds and whatnot, or hearing her name called. I can't fucking remember which one. She goes down and she's like feeling up against the wall of the basement to try to find where these voices are coming from. And then all of a sudden she appeared, like there's this witch looking woman that appears all of a sudden, and there's like the whole like organ music, and then she's screaming, and this witch looking woman just like standing there, and then there's a cut back and forth between the both of them. They're like, and then the woman, I just remember she just glides on through like she's on a skateboard, like on wires. It kind of it was like if you ever seen the original Haunting with Robert Weiss, 1962, it was essentially the same thing, same premise, but the Haunting did a lot better job at provoking like that initial psychological terror, where it was done through sound, mainly through sound effects. That film, once again, assorted cast of characters come to a house, but this time it's for a scientific study in like into the supernatural. And this woman, what was her name? Named Abigail. Slowly throughout the film, you find out that she's kind of like being taken in by the house. Once again, the house is like being haunted. It was built by this eccentric millionaire who was so in love with his wife and was driven insane by her death and whatnot. And apparently she killed herself because she was driven nuts by the house, and the whole thing. And this woman Abigail finds that she's like kind of entranced by the ghost of his wife. Now that film does a really great job, especially once again 1962, low budget, where they did a lot with sound effects. Like, you never see, like, literally never see, you don't see anything. You see nothing. And it was obviously definitely influenced by Psycho. I mean, what horror film after 1960 wasn't fucking...
Oh yeah, there's definitely influence on pretty much every horror movie since then.
It's pretty much untouched as far as that. Not, but like, there's one part where her and one of the other female characters, they're caught in one of the bedrooms, and the door, like, you hear like the ghost steps, like this huge pounding on the door, like, and then the handle, the doorknob slowly, and it doesn't open because the door's locked, and then the door starts to bend in, and like the sound effects almost become crushing, and it's so just like it becomes very overwhelming at one point. Just remembered, I was probably 10 or 11 ish, maybe younger than that. My mom, she's a huge fan of The Haunting, the original 1962 Robert Weiss film. Huge fan of that. Like, that was one of the ones she grew up on. She decided to pass it on. We were watching it one night. It was obviously around Halloween, and we had an old landline, and right around the time where landlines started converting into like cell phones and whatnot, the phone started ringing while we were watching the film, and she picked it up, and we couldn't hear who was on the other line, and her eyes just like got fucking huge, and she's like, no, and I just remember her saying like, no, she's not here, you must have the wrong number, like that, like monotone, like deathly flat kind of shit. She puts the phone down, pauses the movie on the remote, because it was on a VHS tape, because we used to record like all these old movies, and like especially horror movies, and have them stashed away and bring them out like during the season and whatnot. And she looks at us and goes, "They were asking for Abigail."
Holy
like,
shit!
What? Where I was like, what the fuck? Like 9-10-year-old, like 9-10-year-old version of like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what? And she's like, yeah, like someone called asking for Abigail. Like, what? Like, what? That was that was nuts. That was so funny. But yeah, like movies like that, like, and then you got, well, like, all the classes coming up, like obviously Dracula, Frankenstein. I remember being raised on like the old Universal monster movie collections. Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Dracula, and Son of the Mummy, or Return of the Mummy, or whatever the fuck it was. Like the old Karloff and Lugosi and Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr. and stuff like that, and then like leading into like what was the one? Well, can you remember like the first movie that like scared, like you ever saw in like theater, or saw like that just like repulsed you or just scared the absolute shit out of you, Nate?
Oh man,
because I got a few of those.
I'm trying to think here. I had to say, as far as I can remember, it would be first time I saw Akira, but that's not exactly topical. So.
Well, like, you talking about the anime Akira?
Yeah.
It'll fuck with you.
Oh yeah, no, that movie's fucked up.
Yeah, it'll mess with your brain a little bit. I think the one that I had was, and it wasn't like the whole film. It was just the parts. I remember two specific parts, and it might seem a little, I don't know, like name drop or whatever, but have you ever seen John Carpenter's The Thing?
Oh, yeah.
Kurt Russell?
Yeah.
John Carpenter's 1982 remake of Howard Hawks' The Thing from Another World, with Kurt Russell and Keith, the guy, what's his name? Shit. No. Blah, blah, blah. If you've seen it, you know. Where the dog is infected.
Yeah.
And then goes into amongst the rut and then splits open and
Yeah. You had this big old pile of dog meat.
Basically, they're out in the middle of Antarctica, and they dig up it's the one with Wilford Brimley where it goes batshit nuts, and Richard Mazur's in it.
Good times.
What? Keith Davis. That's the guy. Keith Davis.
Yeah.
The guy that he does voiceovers for PBS specials and like commercials and whatnot. Not the Allstate guy. Keith Davis. They dig up like this alien life form, essentially, and then the infection that's the thing, like spreads throughout the camp, and it starts with the main, like one of the dogs in the patch that they have. They don't know it's infected, but it's like about a third way through after they bring the life form back and they're doing tests on it. The dog gets infected, and you don't know, but it just has this weird sense, like the camera's like centered on the dog as it's being let in the patch, and then you hear like these weird sound effects, like the wiry kind of like alien-esque sound effects that I think were taken from the original film and heightened upon. And then the dog like starts to shake and then all the other dogs start to bark at it, and then it kind of shakes, and then its fucking head splits open, and then the tentacles come out and start to attach to the dogs, and they're fucking lifted up.
Probably some of my favorite practical effects in a movie.
Dude, some of the best practical effects.
Yeah.
Fucking gnarly. And then it's like sucking the life out of the other dogs, and then they have to come and torch them all. Oh god. Oh. That and fucking David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, 1986, I believe.
Yep.
It wasn't the part in that where he splits a dude's arm when he's arm wrestling him. It wasn't that. It wasn't his disintegration into becoming the Fly, like his skin falling off and his ear falling off and losing teeth and showing how a fly eats, where he's like pukes all over the bread and all that shit. What it was for me was Gina Davis's dream about giving birth.
Oh god. Pass.
Once again, if you don't know, I'm here to tell you. So, Jeff Goldblum is Seth Brundle, the scientist who he tries to mutate different DNA strands between humans and animals or humans and insects.
I think mainly humans and insects.
Yeah, to try to show that, to try to like breed it's kind of like an Island of Dr. Moreau thing where he tries to breed a new form of human, I think, or some sort of life form. Well, obviously it goes awry, and the Fly genetics, once again, Vincent Price, remake of the original Vincent Price film from the 50s, which I think 1958, 59 is the Vincent Price original version of The Fly, which, that's right. Just remember, once again, the remake with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis from David Cronenberg, he wasn't trying to mutate human DNA with insects. It was about teleportation.
Okay.
He was trying to do human teleportation between the pods, and what happened was the Fly ended up getting stuck in the pod with him. And right as that happened, he and Gina Davis's character have like a sexual interaction and whatnot. And after they figure out that his DNA got spliced, and he's becoming like degenerating in this fly-like object, where once again, like the bodily horror and the natural special effects are just fucking horrendous and on point. There's a sequence where Gina Davis finds out that she's pregnant with what she assumes is his kid, Jeff Goldblum's character's his child, and she has this fucking dream. Oh my god. Where she's oh god. She's in labor in the dream, and she's like, doctors are like, and there's like a medical emergency because the baby or fetus is abnormal, and excuse me, I'm throwing up in my mouth thinking about it, trying to talk about it. The doctors are like, push, and blah, 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 and there's medical emergency going because, like I said, the fetus is abnormal and whatnot, and then she delivers birth, and she looks down and starts screaming, and it cuts to a close-up of the doctor holding a fucking live maggot. It's all fucking greasy and oily and slithering and oh god, it's so fucking disgusting. It's all, like, I saw that around Christmas time and it just ruined the fucking holiday. Oh,
well, my holiday's ruined.
Oh, so fucking just gnarly. Well, like, I could go on and on, but we're getting carried on. We still got a couple more weeks of Halloween left and the October spirit. So we're going to take a short break here, folks, and get to the bulk of the episode. Once again, we have a quick update on the last competition with the HUAC Fighting Angry Goats. And then later on, we're going to give you an introduction of some of the characters around the Glass City and hopefully some stories from the Butcher Shop right here on the Moon Tower Podcast. Alrighty, folks, we are back, and just to get right into it, we would like to give you the highlights of the homecoming game between the HUAC Fighting Angry Goats and the Shipshewana Flapjacks. Nate, I'll tell you, this team, HUAC, they are rolling right along. Another victory. I'll tell you, this team is about as unpredictable as my stool sample.
I was going to say, there's steam rolling right through my colon as we speak.
And that they did with a 48-10 stomping of the Shipshewana Flapjacks. Jimmy I Crack Corn and You Better Care Doppelganger tossed 4 touchdowns in the first half and took a seat on the bench midway through the third quarter with the game well in hand. Receiver Alex Murphy continued his breakout year, torching the Flapjack defense with 8 catches, 156 yards, and 3 of those touchdowns. The GOAT defense played at top level all game, holding the Flapjacks to 187 yards of total offense. It was definitely an all-around effort as the defense claimed 6 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and 2 fumble recoveries, holding the Flapjacks to 2 of 12 on third down, and besides a late touchdown by the cleanup crew, the Flapjacks did not move past the 50-yard line until the third quarter. The special teams even got in on the action as kick returner Bobby Joe Mankiewicz ran back the second half kickoff 97 yards for another GOAT TD, putting the game well out of hand. The Goats look to stay undefeated and cap off their 3-game road streak next week as they travel to New Mexico to face the undefeated Albuquerque Armadillos, a team whose smothering defense has given up only 5 touchdowns in the first 6 games of their season. Armadillo defensive end Jack Cushingham has a league-leading 7 sacks, while linebacker Larry Blake leads the conference in tackles with 82 on the season, overtaking Flapjack linebacker Bob Newhart after a paltry 7 tackles against the Goats. Linebacker Larry Blake's record-setting season includes a school record 26 tackles this past week against rivals, the South Florida Hanging Chads. It's going to be a case of the unstoppable force against the immovable object. With the HUAC passing game getting its hoofs beneath it, it's going to be a big test for both sides, right, Nate?
Oh, I think if they want to win this, they got to be bad.
Real bad. Real quick, I will say that the HUAC running game has to pick up the pace. Jimmy Doppelganger, he's been tossing around yard all season long, especially in the last few games. Their running game is really going to need to pick up, especially with the front line against that big front 7 against the Armadillos, especially with those 2 outstanding stud defensive standouts, Cushingham and Blake. Now, there was a slight injury report in this last game for the Goats. Offensive lineman Dale the Whale McFarland nearly suffered a hernia while laughing at one of his own jokes in the huddle. It really knocked the wind out of him. But other than that, the HUAC Fighting Angry Goats are alive and in charge at now 5-0. They are looking to take on the bulk of their conference and are looking right now at an undefeated season. If they can get past the Armadillos, there's really almost no stopping this team, Nate.
I have all my faith in the Goats.
As do we all.
I love the Goats. They're so bad.
So bad to the bone.
Yeah.
And with that, folks, that is your quick update on the HUAC Fighting Angry Goats. And without further ado, folks, we'd like to bring you some of our more colorful characters from the Glass City area. First on the docket is our good friend Timmy Timwicki. He is a local, born and raised here, and definitely a special breed that we like to bring to you. Alrighty, Tim, how you doing this evening?
Well, it is a tidbit nipply outside, but it's nowhere close to being a witch's tit, I'll tell you what.
That's certainly one way to stay upbeat with the cold weather coming in. So, Tim, you got any big plans for the fall season?
Oh, you know, I like the simple pleasures, like sipping apple cider with a little spiced rum, and watching the leaves fall. I like feeling the nice breeze on the cloudy day with a nice cup of hot dough in the early morning. I like catching a good old football game on Saturday afternoon and raising my rabbits to go hunting with.
Wait, you raise rabbits to go hunting with?
Yes.
Isn't the tradition to go hunting for rabbits?
Well, I like to do things my way. So instead of hunting them, I raise them. I raise them to help me hunt.
Well, Tim, where do you raise these rabbits?
Montana.
And when did you come up with this idea?
Yesterday.
You came up with this just yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, and what do you go hunting for with your rabbits?
People.
You hunt for people?
I certainly do. People are the best trophies. In a funny kind of way, it's kind of like Bugs Bunny was hunting Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, but that happened plenty of times. Have you not seen any of the cartoons?
Well, it's not the way I do it. See, first whoa.
You know what? I don't know. You sure you want to talk about that, Tim?
Yes. Yes, I certainly do. I certainly want to talk about hunting people with rabbits. See, the people, I let them go. First I catch them, then I let them go. Then I let the rabbits run after them, and then the rabbits, they do the trick. I'll tell you what.
They... what kind of trick?
Oh, I can't. That's a family secret. See, if I tell you the family secret, then I'm gonna have to stick my rabbits right after you.
Well, we don't want that, Tim. That sounds dangerous. So let's move on for that. So Tim, as far as your 9 to 5, what do you do for a living when you're not raising rabbits in Montana?
I sell insurance.
What? Really? What kind of insurance?
I sell all of them.
What was that?
I sell all of the insurance.
What's your specialty?
Penile implants.
You sell insurance for penile implants?
Yes.
I might regret asking this question, but what made you go into that field?
I'm very glad you asked. See, one time I had an incident with a hot glue gun, which left my wife very unsatisfied for several weeks, including all my girlfriends as well. None of the women in my life were very happy.
I can only imagine what happened, and I'm glad you did not elaborate any further. Now, Timmy, how old are you?
This many.
Timmy, well, Timmy, I hate to tell you, bud, but the folks at home cannot see how many fingers you're holding up.
Oh, shucks. I forgot this wasn't live. We're working on that. Don't worry. Maybe sometime in the future. Well, to clarify, I am 7 sets of 5. So you're 35? Nope, I'm 5. But I've been 5 7 times. Okay. Yes, my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother told me that if I could count my age in dog years, I'd be young forever. Whatever you say, Timmy. You want some insurance? No, thanks, Timmy. How about a wabbit? I'm fine, Timmy. Welp! If you ever need either, you know where to find me, right? Unfortunately, Timmy, I sure do. Well, thanks for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon. Okie dokie, artichokey. I gotta scram now. Got some wabbits to wave. Boy, I'll tell you what, Nate, that Timmy Timwiki sure is a character, right?
In my opinion, he's kind of, he's weird. He's a weird guy.
You mean in your book?
I mean, what book have I ever written?
That is true. Well, folks, now I think it's time to take a break for our ads, and now...
Yeah. I wonder who that can be. Oh no.
What do you guys got? What?
Oh, God, who's this guy?
What?
Oh, jeez. It's everyone's favorite neighbor, Seymour Hirschfelder.
Let me take a seat here. Let me take a seat. What you got? What you got? What you got? What you got?
Oh. All right, Seymour. All right, you all right there? All right, take a seat. All right, folks, got another guest for you. Everyone's favorite neighbor, Seymour Hirschfelder, is here with his inaugural appearance on the Moon Tower podcast. Seymour, how you doing, buddy?
I've been all right. How are you?
All is well, my friend. You excited for the fall season?
You know me. When it gets cold out, I get hotter than a diamond mine. But, as old Dino said, I've got my love to keep me warm.
Oh, you talking about your wife?
Nah, my right and left hands. Nah.
Seymour. So how's your wife, pal?
She's still alive, which is more than I can say for our relationship.
Oh, no. What's the matter with you guys' marriage?
She's still alive. That's the problem.
Oh, geez, Seymour.
I've been waiting. No, don't tell me. Don't you dare tell me. I know better than you do. I've been waiting 15 years to collect that stinking life insurance check, and yet I wait. Day and night I wait. I got an easy million coming my way. Oh, buddy, I can't wait.
Oh, Seymour, you think that's a bit morbid?
Morbid schmorbid. Looky here, pal. When you get to my age, it's the only thing keeping you from chucking yourself under a bus tire.
That sounds like you've seen a lot in your time, Seymour.
I've seen things you people couldn't possibly imagine.
Like what? Give us a good example. I know you got some good stories.
You ever seen the inside of an elephant trunk?
An elephant's trunk?
Yeah.
I can't say I have.
Oh, there's one time I was down in the south of France after the war.
The war?
Yeah, the big war.
World War II?
No,
Vietnam?
no,
The Gulf War?
no, the big war.
Seymour, what in the hell are you talking about? What war?
The war between the colonies.
The Revolutionary War?
Yeah.
Seymour, you know that took place in like the 1700s, right?
What?
Yeah. 1770s, 1780s.
Oh. Anyway, I was down in the south of France after the big war.
Seymour, that took place almost over 200 years ago.
Do not interrupt me, or I will stick my size 8 up your tuchus. Now I'm trying to tell you a very important story. Do not interrupt me.
Okay, fine.
So, I'm down there with some friends and family, and we're doing a little hunting.
What are you hunting?
Quails and alligators, mainly alligators.
Okay.
So we're out in the middle of the jungle on a pontoon boat, and all of a sudden this great big elephant comes out of nowhere.
Wait, you're in a pontoon boat in the middle of the jungle,
Correct.
and all of a sudden an elephant comes out of nowhere.
That's what I said.
All right, you have the floor.
So, Mr. Elephant comes to say hello, and we're all frozen stiff, like icebergs. Which is funny, because you don't see too many icebergs in the jungle in the south of France.
You don't see much of anything in the story in the south of France.
I know, right? Imagine my surprise. So, Mr. Elephant looks us all over and starts sniffing us out with his big trunk. Then he looks right at me with his great big eyes.
Right at you.
Yeah, me.
Okay. Then what?
He takes his big paw, right? Points it right at me and goes, "You!"
Wait, the elephant spoke?
Perfect English. I was shocked.
Okay,
Yeah. Don't wiggle your eyes at me. Have some respect for your elders. Let me continue my story. All right. The elephant looks right at me. He says that. Then he lifts his big honker into the sky, plops it right down right on top of my noggin.
just right on top of your noggin.
Oh, you betcha. At first, I thought he was trying to catch a whiff of my new hair grease. I'm a dapper damn man after all, so I didn't think twice about it. Elephants in the south of France tend to be quite stylish, so I thought he was a dapper damn man as well.
So I've heard.
Now, no one moves to help me. Then the elephant raises his big honker into the sky with me still in it. And I pray to God all will work out. Elephant starts to walk off. My kid brother said everything and everyone on board was screaming. I couldn't hear squat.
That's not hard to imagine, Seymour. What's it like inside an elephant's trunk?
Dark, very dark, and a little wet.
Well, then what happened?
He took me back to his house, sat me on the couch. We had a nice lock spread, which is funny since I used to be Jewish. And we sat there drinking spritzers and talked for about an hour.
What'd you guys talk about?
Football, my favorite subject.
Well, Seymour, that sounds quite pleasant considering the danger that you were thought to be in.
Almost. It was quite certain at one point. Which reminds me of the story about Marilyn Monroe. Did I ever tell you that?
No, we've talked many times. Seymour, you've never told me about when you met Marilyn Monroe.
Meet her? Oh, did I meet her? I stuck it to her like a frenzied ape in a cage.
Seymour, no.
No, she had a tuchus so wide I call it the eclipse.
Seymour.
What?
What? We're trying to keep this show family friendly.
Well, how do you think families get started?
All right, Seymour. I think we're about out of time with this segment. I think it's time for you about to shuffle up.
You kids these days can't handle when the times were fun. You'd rather get your rocks off with your face chat and your stupid whatchamahoogies.
All right, Seymour. I think we've had enough for this. What? All right, Seymour. I think it's about time for you to go.
I'm right. I think it's about time. All right. Well, I better be off now. The wife's a calling me. She's a calling me.
Well, that's another one of our colorful characters. What'd you think of Seymour, Nate?
He seemed like a crotchety old dude, but that's most of our voting base in America nowadays.
He's been through a lot. He's really been through a lot.
Seems like it.
Is it my turn yet?
Agnes Kandinsky, where'd you come from?
I've been sitting here the whole time, you big lug.
I apologize, Agnes, but I don't remember you even coming in.
That's what you said last night.
Agnes, when'd you get in here?
I came up through the fire escape. I figured I'd surprise you.
But Agnes, the fire escape is at the end of the hallway.
Never mind that. I see you're about to go to break. Can I pimp my diner business?
Well, Agnes, we already have our sponsors for this week. I don't think we can fit you in.
I fit you in last night. Now let me shill for my business. I'll get out of your hair. Come on, kid. I ain't asking for much.
All right. Let me do the opening. You can have at it, all right?
Fair enough.
Moon Tower Podcast is brought to you by
Agnes's Angus Diner, where if you want beef, you'll get it. Everything from breakfast, lunch, dinner, to the pies we serve. They all got beef. Hamburgers, cheeseburgers, roast beef, beef and cheese. Sorry, let me do that again for the folks at home. Agnes's Angus Diner, where if you want beef, you got it. Everything from breakfast, lunch, dinner, to the pies we serve, they all got beef. Hamburgers, cheeseburgers, roast beef, beef and cheese, beef omelets, beef and toast, beef on rye, and beef cake. You want it? We got it. Stop in for a soup of the day tomorrow. It'll be beef for some young guy. Hey, that's pretty clever, right? Anyways, it's all you can eat, baby. So get into Agnes's Angus Diner and chomp some of this shit. This is Agnes, over and out.
Excuse me, I ordered...
What? What do you want?
I ordered Coke, and you gave me a glass of au jus. This is pretty salty on the...
Whoa, you keep talking like that, it'll be beef broth, you son of a bitch. Yeah.
Okay.
How do you like that?
I'm kind of thirsty, but...
I'll suck it down,
drink.
chump.
Yeah, I guess I'll drink this, Agnes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you once again for tuning in to episode 6 of the Moon Tower Podcast. Your host, Ian Hubbard, is still with you. Nate Fitch is to my left this evening. Nate, you doing all right, buddy?
I'm living, giving, not in prison, getting a shivin'.
Isn't that everyone's Christmas wish?
At least it's mine.
All right. Now, we hope you enjoyed this latest update. Don't want to keep it too long, so we did promise you some stories from the butcher shop. Considering the last couple of weeks, we went a little heavy as far as the topical, according to the meat and seafood industries and whatnot. Thank you for those who tuned in and gave us your feedback on that. Now we'd just like to tell you a few stories, see what happens with that. Nate, I have to lead off. Do you have any colorful characters that you would like to comment on as far as people you've worked with and whatnot over the years in your line of business? I've got a few, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Personally, one of my favorite people I used to work with was my old head chef, Terry Crosby, over at Nagoya. I learned, how to break down basic proteins from that guy. He showed me how to do squid in probably the most interesting way possible, which is he likened it to fisting a lady, because you put your hand up inside of the squid or whatever to get the beak out, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, that's wow. I might be a little tongue-tied.
I was too.
What about any good characters? Anybody that sticks out in your mind? Like maybe they may not have been that great at the job, or they're just a character in some sort. Just because I'm sure in the restaurant business you're bound to find at least a few people. Anyone sticks out in your mind?
I used to work with this guy named Alex, and we just called him Sergey. And his favorite thing to do was to cook the fried rice, so to speak.
He cooked the fried rice.
He making the fried rice, just like that.
Is that what he sounded like?
Yeah, when he was going to make the fried rice, that's what he sounded like.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I used to work with this guy named BJ. Literally just BJ. Didn't stand for anything.
I've heard about BJ.
Yeah.
I know you and Chris have told me about BJ extensively.
That guy's a character. He looked like Wario from, like the whole Mario Nintendo thing or whatever you want to call that. Like, spitting image of Wario.
What about BJ? What made him stand out?
Not a whole lot. He was pretty terrible. He liked to play Destiny, and whenever he would like mention that, I was like, imagine him like dating this hooker named Destiny, and that's what he was going home to.
If only that was the case. Fucking, you ever work with like ex-cons or anything? Anything like
oh
hardcore?
yeah, actually I did. My old head chef Rob, he went to prison, and he described to me working in the kitchen over there, like a chef knife would be a lid off of a tin can that they took off or whatever, like like the serrated, jagged ass edge, or they use that to cut up shit. That was their chef knife.
My version of that was being able to work in the same establishment with heroin addicts and a murderer.
Oh. Elaborate on that. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Never tell you that?
No.
Fucking when I was out there, it was one of the local butcher shops in town. Worked there with my dude Willie, who was off and on dabbled with the smack. Unfortunately, like he's what I call a tentative doer of the drugs. He like literally like he'd be clean for about 6 months and then relapse and then be gone for another 3 or 4. He would just vanish and then come back like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And the first time it happened, it was around Christmas time. He just literally just didn't come in for like a week or 2. And I asked some people who worked there, like, does it often happen often? And they're like, yeah. Just something that they kind of turn a blind eye to, because he'll show up eventually. Like, my manager told me he fucking told me that. He'll show up eventually. And one of the guys I worked with was like, how many times does this happen? He's like, well, in the 2 years I've been here, it's happened about 9 times.
Well, damn.
But it was definitely equal opportunity employer. But there was this one cat, his nickname was Palooka. He's a guy about mid-50s, nice head of white hair. I mean, like silver white hair, like beautiful. Like it was way better than Paulie Walnuts and Sopranos.
I believe it.
He used to wear a back strap or back brace, because he'd also, on his off days, would haul furniture for a small company. And Polish as hell, smelled like it. And he had that crouch to it, like he had like that bent back kind of thing going. He was a real nice guy, and he had this kind of atrocious aftershave or cologne that he would wear. And one time we're on the prep table, because in the shop that we were at, you walk in the back door, and there's the long white table, the head table, where they do the main cutting, like steaks and chops and whatnot, and then you have the saw, then you have like the tenderizer, which is like this fucking
big old spiky boy. I imagine.
It was about 2-3 feet long. It's about 5. No, wait, 6 feet long. About 6 feet long, almost. And it was exactly what you think. It was, you put the hunk of meat, the clod, on a purveyor belt, and set the machine going. Put the hoods down, and then you'd have like 1,000 spice, like kerchunk,
Ah,
kerchunk,
okay.
kerchunk,
Yeah, they
truck.
make miniaturized versions you can use at home to do
Yeah.
the same sort of thing. Yeah.
So they would send that through, and then off to the side you'd have like the main grinder and the patty machine and shit like that. So I think one day I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday. Me and Willie are on the back prep tables, like the two tables behind the main, right behind the tenderizer machine. And Palooka, he worked the freezer. They had this giant fucking freezer. It was like the size, or excuse me, the length of a beer cave. And he comes out, he's working the freezer, and like his cologne was just atrocious. It was just pungent, right in your face. Like you walk by, you just smell it. It just smelled like brute cologne.
That's the
Yeah,
worst.
like that hardcore, like. Oh,
I
shit.
remember in my younger years getting sprayed down with Brute, and it was not pleasant.
No, it's never pleasant. And like we call him Palooka because he's Polish as hell, and we worked in a Polish neighborhood and whatnot. They love the kielbasa. I can't even fucking stand the smell of kielbasa. I can't. No, not anymore. I know people in this area love it. I get it. I understand it.
I don't understand the appeal, honestly. I mean, I've had it at every family gathering since
I was gonna say,
was
especially around
3.
the fucking holidays. Especially around the holidays, we'd sell thousands of pounds of that. Thousands.
I cooked at least 30 for my cousin's wedding. So, yeah.
But he comes out of the freezer, and his cologne's just wafts. Like he'd walk by and it was just leave that waft like a bad fart. And I look over my dude Willie and I'm like, someone should tell Palooka that his cologne makes him smell more Polish than he already is. Ha ha ha. And it was one of the only times I ever saw Willie like get serious.
Serious Willie.
Like literally. He stops, he looks at me, he's like, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, what's up? He's like, Palooka did 25 years for killing a guy. I'm like, what? What? And this is
yeah.
and this is a place where I fucking saw drug deals go down inside the store. Like, one of our dudes, Ed, would fucking sell weed inside the store. Like, one of his dudes would come in, act like he was buying something, just sneak off to the side, and they slap hands, exchange goods and whatnot, like shit like that. Like it was whatever. Like I said, my dude Willie fucking would just drop out and resurface, and I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, dude. Like fucking Palooka beat a guy so hard he fucking died in the hospital.
Jesus.
And he fucking did 20-25 for manslaughter.
Okay.
I'm like changed my entire perception of the guy. Actually, in some odd sort of fucked up way, like the next time I saw him, I actually had a lot more respect for him. Not to say like, but like he come in like 2 days later because he worked at another store, a sister store as well, and he come in and he's very very quiet kind of guy. There's something to be said about like dudes that spend like a shit ton of time in prison. And one of my brothers told me about this. He's like, they're either like just real down low, just real super quiet, or they're that that hard ass. It's like, well, I'm fucking, Billy Badass kind of shit.
Oh yeah.
Well, Palooka comes in. He's got that hunch to him. Like he walks. Just the way he moved, like, kind of had that vibe. Like, and this guy's probably seen and done some shit, right? And he come in. We're back in the dressing room. There's a little hallway right where the time clock is, and some people would go back there for breaks or for lunch or whatever. I'm back there getting changed or changing my shirt and what. I'm not getting butt naked, but like I got changed my shirt and my hat and whatnot. And Palooka comes back and he looks at me. He's like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, how's it going? How's it going?" And just the look of him, because he didn't have his hat on. He had that nice fade of just white hair and just looking at him like, "You, okay, yep, I got it now. I got it now. Like, okay, like you, and he never talked about it. No one ever talked about it. There's this other cat, Terry, that he had most of his teeth missing. You know, would talk about how he was in prison like multiple times over his life, like armed robbery or assault or some shit like that. Like, oh yeah, you're fucking hard ass. And then we figured out after he ratted a couple people out for smoking out back that, like, okay, yeah, your teeth are missing not because you enjoy Little Debbie's and Pepsi on your fucking lunch break. It's because probably you got fucking mouth fucked by a fist in prison.
It's like that album cover, Fistful of Metal by Anthrax.
Mm-hmm. Yep, pretty much. That was one of those places, like, they hired anyone. Like, there's one dude that fucking got hired in and was living in a halfway house. Not because of drugs, but, like, he was getting out of prison. His first or second day, they're, like, they break you down and, like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you here? That kind of shit. And he was like, you know, I'm living in a halfway house, like, near downtown. Just got out of jail. What are you in jail for? Assault. How long did you spend? 3 years? About 2-3 years. Fucking beat up his girlfriend when he was drunk.
Yeah.
What happened? Oh, she mouthed off. What? And then he fucking disappeared after like 2 months. Just vanished.
Oh, dang.
Like, getting the gist of it. And this was after, like, I've been doing this for probably 2 years, close to it, for the better part of 2 years. Yeah, it's just really crazy, like, the kind of characters you come across when you do jobs like this. And honestly, like, there's a part of me that kind of recommends, like, doing jobs like that, to where, you know, you feel like it's beneath you, but you get to meet and come across very humbling sorts of people. People that you would not imagine ever coming across, even for a brief, short period of time, in whatever avenue that you wish to take. And in my case, when I first came upon this kind of gig, like, I kind of fell into it and worked my way up, and then got busted back, and then came across these people that, you know, in many circumstances had it worse off than I did, like, and still do. Like, you know, these people are literally struggling, like, paychecks to paycheck kind of thing. And it is very humbling. And I know a lot of people don't want to have that happen to them, because the way I ended up at this particular established the butcher shop where these people were that I've been talking about, and I got fired from my old job, which was my own doing. You know, I was in a rough patch, and I let my emotions get the best of me, and then I ended up there for 9 months, which was not anywhere short the greatest 9 months of my life, but it was very affirming, because what came out of it was, it kind of prepared me, and I was a lot better off, not because of it, but out of it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. No, I've definitely been in, like, some gutter-ass line cook dishwashing jobs, whatever you want to call that, and, you know, you always get better from every terrible experience you have. You learn something from all those things. Like, I feel like good experiences, like, yeah, they make you feel good, but, you know, you learn things from those bad experiences.
Well, it's the whole idea with, like, peaks and valleys and whatnot.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And if you don't get those fucking valleys, then you'll never understand the peaks. I mean, it's one of those old cliches that, I mean, it rings true. It really does, and especially with job-type jobs. Like, that's one of the biggest fucking things I can recommend. Not even recommend, but just say outright is find, like, having people that you can work with and actually enjoy being around at your gig, at whatever job you have, is the biggest fucking thing around. Like it's so absolutely so important. Absolutely so important. So if you have those kind of people around you that you love being around, or like, I used to think it was a goof, like having work friends, like quote unquote work friends. It's true though. It really is true. But anyway, once again, appreciate you guys listening. I think that's a pretty decent spot to leave off with, right, Nate?
Yeah, man, I do believe so.
So, didn't get to as many stories we would like to. I think next week will allow us a little bit more free time. We kind of got carried away with our colorful characters. There's some goofy bastards, let's tell you what.
They're a ragtag bunch of old chums, I do declare.
That is true, but I'd like to bring those to you. Hope you enjoyed it. Once again, from the Moon Tower Podcast to you, the listener, we love you. Hope your Halloween plans are coming together. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your Halloween plans are. You got any scary movies you want to bring to us that we haven't heard of? Got any recommendations? Vice versa. Let's hear it. But from us to you, have a good evening.
Smooches.
Nate, take us away.
Still sipping some of this au jus that Agnes gave me, and the more I drink it,
Hope you like it.
I do.
Oh shit, she's still here.
Oh, hey, Aggie.
Whoa. Oh no. Put that shit away. Holy shit, but
I hope you like it now.